Well, hello there, and welcome to Innovation Coffee, brought to you by ARM, where the coffee's hot and the innovation is hotter. My name is Robert Wolf, joined by Michael Hall over here
Hey.
to my left. Hello, hello. And we will be your host for this week and every week as we take a deeper look at the ARM developer ecosystem and explore the many things going on in and around this exciting space. Now, for each of these live streams, we'll start with developer updates, followed by in-depth conversations about ARM and our growing developer ecosystem. We are joined by featured guests, ARM experts, and partners from within ARM and our developer community. We will discuss a plethora of topics tailored for developers, showcase opportunities, explore resources, and bring new and exciting ARM developments to light. In each of these events, we will end it off with an audience Q&A. And of course, if you have questions throughout this stream, please be sure to bring them to the YouTube chat, post them there, and we'll address them as soon as we possibly can. As a reminder, if you enjoy the broadcast, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the ARM Software Developer YouTube channel so you can get more content like this, because we are constantly pushing content out. Now, exciting times, Mike. How are you doing today?
There, I'm doing good. I am still recovering from All Things Open, where I was at this past Sunday through Tuesday. There were a lot of people there. I did a lot of talking. For anyone who watched the show last week, I was just getting over a cold, so my throat was still kind of raw and all that talk. I'm glad we didn't have a booth. I would not have survived a booth.
Well,
but today we did have a track. We sponsored the IoT and hardware track there, and so we got that room and all of those great speakers there that I got to see. Some really, really cool stuff happening in that space, and we were glad to be a part of it.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Yeah. So, maybe let's take a minute to talk about the event, but I do want to tell our viewers, today, as you see in the title, we are going to be talking about leveling up gaming with large language models. And we're joined by Roberto Lopez Mendez from ARM, who is going to be talking to us about this. Roberto, on the call, how are you today?
Hi, Robert. Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me today. I'm really happy to be here with you. This is, I think, the second time.
Yeah, it is. It's fun.
I'm
it's fun
here with you, right? We were here last year with you, right?
Yeah. Good name, by the way, Roberto. You got a good name.
Yeah. Our name is a nice one.
Yes, it is, right? So, Roberto, are you by chance familiar with the All Things Open conference that Michael went to, or no?
Which one?
All Things Open. Michael
no.
Yeah, so it sounds like a pretty fun one. I was just going to see if Michael could just share maybe a couple highlights before we dive into your topic, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar at all with that conference.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the bigger ones on the East Coast here. It's all community run, so there's not like a corporate sponsor behind it. They get a bunch of corporate sponsors, but there's no one entity that runs the whole show. So it's really nice because it feels like such a community thing, right? There's not a lot of marketing pitches, but it's really technology focused. It's open source focused. A lot of people doing really interesting stuff with open source machine learning and even open source large language models. That was a huge topic. I think it's a huge topic everywhere right now, but it was a really big one there. A lot of talks centered around using ChatGPT or other generative AI models. A lot of talks about the licensing, the ethical responsibilities that we have as we develop it. Met some really big name people in the open source field. Folks from AWS, from GitHub, from NVIDIA. So a lot of really nice people who know what they're talking about, doing the keynotes and stuff. Really good content, really good show, very well run, I would say.
Nice. Awesome. Now, Roberto, we did this a little backwards because our viewers have been looking at you but have no idea who you are. So let's get to know Roberto. Roberto,
Sure.
Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I'm the tech lead of the developer advocacy team in the client line of business in ARM. So our main task as a team is to showcase developers how to make the most of any new ARM technology that is released to developers. So in practice, everything that is going to developers, any new technology pass through our hands first. Why? Because then we always try to implement some demo. We try it. We deliver blogs about how to use it, the best practices for it. So yeah, everything. And at the same time, of course, we look for new technologies that potentially could be interesting for ARM, right? And from developers as well, and
Yeah.
try to run on our IP, profile, get as much as possible the info, and we are at the same time in contact permanently with developers. We visit developer forums. We know about what developers are talking about ARM. We respond to their questions, and we get feedback from them, and bring that feedback to our engineers in ARM, so we could improve our IP, our technology.
Yeah, and so, real quick for anyone watching, he threw out the word client from one of the client line of businesses. Roberto, this is pretty much like mobile, right? Focused mostly on mobile and endpoint.
Yeah, I mean, we are focused on mobile, but clients also are looking at the so-called big screens, right? And home, the DTV segment. There are different segments that
Yeah.
client also covers, but we are mainly, yeah, focused on our team on mobile.
Okay,
Don't you
cool,
also
cool.
focus on like the Windows on ARM side of things?
Oh, as well. I mean, definitely, this is a
Yeah.
new technology, and we are supporting it. Yeah, 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 definitely. We have released several blogs and best practice and example about Windows on ARM. Yes, definitely.
Awesome. So, Roberto, let's dive into the main topic here, which is leveling up gaming with large language models. I want to start from the beginning here. So, for anyone watching who does not know what a large language model is and how it's applied to your particular use cases, maybe we could start with that. So what's a large language model, and how are we going to start talking to it throughout this episode
Mhm.
here?
Yeah, sure, sure. Um, I would like to go a little back, right? Looking back in time, and see when convolutional neural networks were introduced, and then they were really good at image processing and recognizing objects, right? And we know that very well, right? There are many applications of convolutional neural network for face detection, object detection. It is already working in many areas of the everyday life, but they were not that good in natural language processing, right? Um, and then it was Google, when looking at the translation problem, who came up with the idea of a so-called transformer model. So it is a neural network that learn the context by tracking relationships between the words in the sequence in the words in the sequence of words, right? So it is a deep learning model that adapts a set of math techniques known as self-attention, um, and this mechanism assign different weight to different words in the word sequence. So in this way, um, the neural network that can can detect where are the most important words in that sentence and get the sense of that sentence, right? At the end, machine only understand numbers, right? So this is the reason why um, the transformer model assign different weights to the words in a sentence, right? In a sequence of words. Um, but additionally, the translation problem has a really good feature that it doesn't need labeling for training, right? For training the network. Um, and this is the first time that an AI model could take advantage of the unlimited content out there in internet, right? So then
That's pretty
open.
big deal.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
like, I mean, a
This is
model that
this is
takes
the
advantage
first
of
time.
all the information in the internet.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It can be trained over the whole content of internet, which is, it's infinite, right? Let's say, well, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not infinite, but it's really huge,
It's
right?
close to it.
So, and then OpenAI developed further the concept of transformer and launch GPT, right? So this is the generative pre-trained transformer. This is just the acronym for that,
Yeah.
and this is perhaps, I will say, the technology that experienced the fastest adoption ever. who, I mean, everybody knows about GPT. Who doesn't, right?
Wait,
You
what's
just tell me.
GPT?
So yeah, yeah.
I've
Chat GPT, which is built on top of the GPT, right? The
never heard of
generative
this. No, I'm
pre-trained
just kidding.
transformer.
Yeah.
So it's everywhere, right? It's in all the browsers. There are app for it, so you can ask Chat GPT whatever you want, right?
Roberto, I was just on LinkedIn posting something for this episode today, and LinkedIn now has GPT in it
Yep,
so that
yep,
it will help you write your messages. So like
yep.
yeah, you say everywhere. I didn't even know that it was there yet. I accidentally clicked on it and I'm like, no, I want to write my own message.
Yeah, there,
But
there
yeah,
are ChatGPT plugins for WhatsApp, or
yep.
it's everywhere practically. It's everywhere, right? And people are actively using it, right? Because ChatGPT can be very useful for summarizing things, for suggesting titles, for mm, you know writing some uh, mm, short description. It's infinite, right? It's
Yeah.
just it's
I
just
saw
there with.
somebody using it to write tweets for marketing stuff.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
week.
definitely, definitely. I mean, it comes to, I mean, you can ask ChatGPT, and I showed to my wife how to use it, right? And then now she's actively using every time he needs some suggestions, some point to start writing something, right? And
Mhm.
ChatGPT can be very useful. Of course, there are many challenges related with the use of ChatGPT, right? And that you, Michael, were just pointing to when you were talking about the open source conference, right? There are problems related with the fact that there is no guarantee that what you hear from ChatGPT is true, or is a verified fact, or it's up to you. It's just a reflection of the information out there in the internet that is very, very different, right? Is varying, and yeah, there
So
are challenges
Mhm.
also related with the use of ChatGPT, of course.
Roberto, I want to bring this back to the topic here, and we have
Yep.
some questions for you if you don't mind.
Yeah. Sure.
Mike,
Sure. Go ahead.
we're gonna rattle some off to you. All right.
Yeah. So for somebody who's maybe familiar with traditional like deep learning models that they would use in something like TensorFlow, what's the fundamental difference between something that can do object detection and classification and an LLM that's used in a generative AI?
Um, yeah. I mean, the difference is mainly in what I mentioned about the capacity um, of detecting the most important words in a sequence of words, and detected the sense, because the neural network, the convolutional neural network has been very good in detecting object. They are trained specifically for object. During the training process, the neural network is seeing thousands and millions of a given type of object, and then the neural network can detect it easy when that object is everywhere, right, in different scenarios, right?
Right.
But the case of a natural language model is different, right? It's dealing with um, yeah, our speech, right? How we speech, how we describe our um, um, thoughts, and how we order the word in a sentence, right? It's completely different type of problem, which is named like natural language processing problem, right? They are very different on that, and the main difference is in the fact that the the words in a sequence of the words are divided, say, in tokens, and are identified. Every token are assigned different weights in such a way that the neural network can detect the sense of that sentence, or the importance of those words in the sentence. But at the same time, when we are training the network for example, for object detection, we use the so-called label data set, right? So in an image, we point out this is an image containing a car. So, and it is maybe the different type of cars, but those data sets are labeled, that we call labeled data set. And it takes a lot of time to prepare these data sets, right? Labeled data sets. But in the case of uh, generative pre-trained transformer models, as I said, you don't train the model with a label data set. So you can train with any content. You just provide content as the words in a books, in the press, or any blog, anything, any sequence of word can be used for training.
So
So yep, sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
no, that's fine, Roberto. I want to kind of bring this to some games here. I want to bring this to gaming for a second, because
Oh yeah, yeah.
you guys did some really cool stuff at GDC this year, and I want to kind of like I want to tie gaming development. And so I have this question here, right? Like again, starting from the foundation, right? How might these general models influence developers when they conceptualize and ultimately build the games that they're building? And how can they optimize and maximize it on ARM? So general models from conceptualization to building and then optimizing for ARM.
Yeah, I mean, I need to talk here a little about last GDC, right? You were there. We were
Yeah.
together. We were together.
And you had a great demo, and we're going to share that demo.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
share the link to that demo.
But let me mention a little about. There was a very interesting talk from Roblox, which is a game engine, where Roblox describe how they were using generative model to help developers code, generating the code, and creating some assets, textures on some objects, right? But also they share their vision for the future. Um, so that was the first time that I, officially or publicly, some companies share their vision on what they were doing or they are doing with generative models. And they showcase how the developers can describe the type of function they need, and then automatically the script will be generated. And and then of course, you need to you need to check everything that is suggested, right, and test it. Um, but at the same time, they just like share like the vision for the future, to the point that, okay, the next step, we would like to, before after generating simple assets, being able to generate 3D objects just from a prompt description. And the biggest goal is just to generate a whole scene, right? And they were just, I remember there was a picture like, okay, you can describe, I would like to have a scene with a river, a big rock in the middle, vegetation in both sides, and the character just crossing that river, right? A small river. And voila, you get that, right? That is where we are going to, right? So imagine that. Imagine and compare what with all the process we have now, right? That you need to generate every element, right? And we will get there. Definitely, we will
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah. So in this case, are you referring to kind of assets in a game? Like, so if
Yeah,
you wanted to
yeah,
generate these assets.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we are talking here about the use of generative model during development, right? During
Yeah.
development, and this happened on desktop, right? This happened on desktop, and of course that will accelerate. That will help a lot developers. Um, other big engines like Unity and Unreal are working on that as well. Unity, for example, they publicly release a couple of blogs where they mention their intention of using generative models as a complement of the existing tools, but they don't go to specifics. But it is a public statement about that.
So
They only,
Roberto,
yep.
I was just talking to Guy Martin, who's the director of open source over at NVIDIA. And we were talking about universal scene descriptions, which was something
Oh,
that I think Pixar developed with
yep,
NVIDIA
yep,
to kind of
yep.
describe like the backgrounds for like 3D movies and stuff. Is that the kind of thing that you think we can use generative AI to produce for
Oh
video
yeah,
games, like create
yeah,
the set for a video game?
definitely, definitely. I mean, I guess that at the beginning, every game engine will adopt their own, you know, way or rules, or but we should go to something, common, or to some standard. And you're right. This scene, like a scene, like format for a scene description, that could be one way, right? We are not there yet. Nobody is yet there, right? So we will see. This is a completely open road, right? But definitely we should go at some point for some standard, right? Adopt some standard, the same way we have a standard for saving a scene or describing a scene, right? With GLTA, for example. Um, so there will be some standard for that, right? But at some point, uh, as I mentioned, this is something that happened during game development, right?
Right.
It happened on desktop, but we are mobile, right? We are mobile. And then when when we were discussing our team how we can, bring the use of generative model to mobile gaming, and it should be on runtime, right? At runtime, it
Yeah.
should
So
be at
this,
runtime.
okay, actually, Roberto, this is something I had a big question at, right? Because large language models require a lot of storage, a lot of code, right?
Oh
And you
yeah.
need and a lot of compute. And
Oh
so
yes, yes, yes.
when you say at runtime, are you meaning that like on the device itself? So you are not only storing, you are
Yeah,
processing all on the device.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's
I mean,
crazy.
I think that there is no other way, right? There is no other way. We need to have that language model on our device, to avoid latency, right?
Yeah.
Because we want to interact with NPCs, the non-playable characters. And now maybe I don't know if you could have access um, to that video that
Yeah, yeah.
we
Let's put that
we
video
we
up.
showcased at GDC this year, right?
Uh,
Um,
I'm gonna actually bring this up. Let me bring it up real quick, Roberto. I'm gonna share my screen and bring it up. How can I, Gabe? Can you put it in the private chat real quick if you don't mind? We got our wizard behind the scenes over here, producer.
So
Um,
while we're getting that up, Roberto, do you think
yeah.
that in the near future we're going to be battling AI powered, LLM powered bosses in video games?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think so. I think so. I mean, but the point is that we will need to. I mean, as Robert was saying, I mean, how you just can't put 7 billion or 1 trillion
Yeah.
model parameter parameter model in a mobile on a mobile phone, right? And and at the same time, you need to share resources with the game itself, right? Um,
Hmm.
so
this
Roberto,
is very challenging. Yeah. Oh,
why,
oh, yeah.
why don't you walk us through this? I muted it. That's Koki Matsumoto, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe you can
So,
walk us through this real quick while we're showing
oh
this.
yeah, 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 definitely. This is a demo. This is a demo. Koki and in the team, we implemented, where for the first time you can see 100 NPCs, 100 non-playable characters with brains, right? With brains fighting. There are two teams of 50 bunnies which are fighting each other to break the opponent egg. It was related with Easter, right? So, um, and the bunnies, there are bunnies with uh, different brains. Bunnies specialize in going and fighting with the other with the opponent. Other which are more inclined to defend the position, to defend the egg against the other that are coming to break it. Other which are managing. So there were 50 in each team, 50 bunnies with 4 different brains, and this is the first time on mobile someone showcased that many NPCs playing, at 60 FPS. There, it's a game, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And this
so
is and this is all everything is on the mobile device here.
We
everything.
are talking. I mean, we are talking running, and this.
Yeah,
What you can see there is a big screen, but that screen is connected to a phone, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's crazy.
So we are talking about mobile, right? And
Yeah, you can see the phone right there.
this demo was implemented in Unity because it has a great environment for they call it emulations, right? For training emulations, and even using different types of algorithm for training or for um, the behavior, right? So we wanted so we got really good experience on that, right? We were we have been working on that for 2 years. Even we contributed to the open source because this is open source. Um, the the um, the Unity emulation package is open source, and we contributed to this by implementing an optimization that distribute the update of the different brains of the different let's say group of NPCs uh, after not every frame as originally was happening, but every maybe 2 or 3 frames, depending on the number of groups. So that allow us to go up to 100 agents, right? With brains running at the same time and executing at the same time. So that was a contribution. We call it interleaving inference, frame interleaving inference, right? So the inference for some neural network of the brains happens not every frame, but every 2 frames or maybe every 3 frames, right? We did that contribution, and thanks to that, we were able to have that many NPCs or bunnies, right, running at them, playing at the same time their strategy, and they were trained for some of them for attack, other for defend.
Yeah.
So that was a really interesting work that we did. But we discussed in the team how we can go further, right? And of course, uh, there are this language model, right? The first thing we wanted is, okay, can we first of all start interacting verbally with NPCs? And I think definitely that will be the future. That there will be, I mean, it is the
So,
nat- it is the way we interact
but
ourselves, right?
you mean like verbally, as in like you say, oh, hey, attackers go,
Yeah, yeah,
defenders
yeah, 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 yeah.
come, and boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, done, done, done.
You know, when the first time when I talk about that, I did the short presentation to other teams, right? And I said we should be able to see. Imagine, for example, in a game where you are a lead of the team of soldier, and you have a
Mhm.
mission of taking some building, right? So you will need only to say to your team, guys, we need to take that building. You go for the left, you go for the right, you go with me. Let's go, rap. So
Yeah.
why? Because first they will understand what you want. They will be able to reply to you, and they have been trained for that. So they
So
even how I see is that you even don't need to give an order. The order can be implicitly understood by the context because of the brain they have. They have
So
already
Roberto,
small
you
brain.
you've mentioned training several times now. How did you train these models? Because it sounds like Unity provided the framework for
Oh yeah, yeah.
inserting AI
So
into the
yeah.
bunnies, right? But how did you train them?
So 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 we use the so-called reinforcement training, right? Reinforcement
Reinforcement.
learning. So you um, so the agent perform the action millions of times, and
Oh,
every time the agent achieve the goal, it has been trained. You just give an incentive, right? Let's
Hmm.
say plus one. every
ah.
time every time it fails, right? You just mm,
Re- Is
you
this
know
similar to how they do what is autonomous driving, where they have cars drive the same
yeah,
course
yeah,
over
yeah,
and
yeah,
over
yeah. I
and
mean,
over again if they
exactly,
crash?
exactly.
Yeah.
In Unity, you can train autonomous driving, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh, really?
yeah. You can. That was one of the first um, like examples.
I think that was one of the first. What is it? Use cases for this type
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
reinforcement
yeah.
training. Okay, so
So there was a kind of labyrinth, and then
Mhm.
yeah,
the car just learned to go through without hitting the
and it
walls,
drives it
right?
billions of times, millions and millions of
Exactly,
times. Yeah,
exactly, exactly. But what happened that every time that it hits the wall, it receives a minus, right?
yeah.
And every time that it doesn't hit the wall, it just receive a stimulus, right? A positive stimulus. And
I think they call it like software defined driving. So Roberto, I want to bring this. I want to bring this to ARM. Okay, right. So we have all this cool stuff happening. We've talked about the large language models, and I think like it's just like the huge kicker, moving it onto the device. Like that's just freaking amazing. You
yeah,
guys killed it, and that demo's amazing. ARM, where does ARM come into play here? Why is ARM so important in all of this? Because I mean, I feel like that's the golden answer here, and I love it. Let's hear it.
so I mean, you know that I mean the neural network can be the inference can happen on the CPU or on the GPU. In the case of this
Mhm.
example that you showcased, the demo of the Candy Clash demo, the demo of the bunnies, the inference was happening in the CPU, right? We got a very powerful CPUs, right? Um, and then, but the neural networks that I use as as a brain for the bunnies, they're a simple network, right? They're a simple network, and thanks to that, we were able to perform the inference, right, to run the network on the CPU. But now we are talking about language model, um, and of course we won't use a large language model. It's not possible. It's not possible. We There was recently, and this is why we now can, let's say, put
Uh
that problem in front of us to solve that problem. It has been released a paper recently that is called Tiny Stories, and and I have to let me just explain that in a couple of minutes why it is so important, at least for us, right? Um, and for mobile, because this is the first attempt really to seriously um, implement a language model. I will remove the large, um, uh, which will be mobile friendly. Why? Because I mean, for example, the simplest one of the simplest or the more compact large language model that we have tested is the Meta 7, which is 7 billion, right? It's the smallest of the Meta um, um, uh, GPT models, 7 billions. But there are a couple of developers that they suddenly put the following or try to answer to the following question: how much we can simplify a large language model to the point that that language model will retain the basic features of the language model. It means reasoning, of course, speaking, understanding. So, and they came up with a few models, and the more complex was a model of 30 millions of parameters. 30 million, compare 30 million with 7 billions, right? So 30 million, we think, we haven't done it yet, that we can work with it, right? There are other options or more lighter from this series, right? But the idea here is that they started simplifying, and they, using ChatGPT, they generate a data set of short stories, and this is why they call tiny stories, using a set of simple words that will be equivalent to the vocabulary of a 4 to 5 years old kid.
you back, Mike? Your network all
Yeah,
good?
yeah, my
Hey,
network's back.
thank you, Roberto, for that. Yeah, Mike just dropped off. We were like chatting with him in a second, but yeah,
Yeah.
Mike,
And
did you want to ask your question?
unfortunately, because I had a question along what
Okay,
you were talking about. You
all
were
right.
talking
Yeah,
about
yeah, go ahead.
using the GPU for accelerating these AI models. What is it about a GPU that makes it run faster than on a CPU?
Yeah, the GPU is a parallel processor. So the CPU uh, is say generic processor, right?
You're restricted
Uh,
by the amount of cores, aren't you? Like in terms of how many
exactly,
parallel
exactly.
processes?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's a sequential processor, right? It's a sequential processor. It performs one instruction after other.
Yeah.
But the difference with the GPU is that it is a parallel processor. It was designed to perform operation for every pixel, right? You
Right.
can at the beginning. It was at the beginning. Now, after a few already some years ago, started using as a generic processor for just doing math calculations, thanks
Mhm.
to the fact that it can handle many it can open many threads and launch the calculation on at the simultaneously and at the same time we have to say that first of all it's a parallel processor with the capability of doing simultaneously many more operations than the CPU, but also it's more power saving. It uses less power.
The
So
CPU.
Our Molly chips,
no,
for
the
example.
GPU, the GPU,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
per operation, yeah, less
Oh, per
power,
operation, per operation.
yeah,
Gotcha.
per operation, right?
So,
So it,
so for
yeah,
example, our Molly GPUs that are used in a lot of mobile phones now, right? They're made to run the same like shader processing on every pixel. So
yeah,
for an AI, you can use that same kind of workflow. You can say, I want to run the same operation on all of this uh, AI data instead of pixel data, and have it use the same like the
Or
same
or
instructions
images.
that are in
Or
there.
images even, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I mean we, the same concept has been I mean has been implemented, the so-called compute shader, right,
Mhm.
to appropriately use that power. So and then you run simultaneously, you open a number of threads, right, that are capable of performing in parallel same operation, right? So but for that you are not using the common shader used in gaming, but the so-called compute shader, right? Which are used on gaming as well, right? Of course.
Mhm.
So right now, GPU is used for rendering and for computing, right?
So
And one of the I mean, thanks to this parallel processing, is why it is used for training, right? It can train a lot of more faster,
quicker
um,
in parallel.
yeah,
Yeah.
because they
So
are a parallel processor.
so Roberto, let's talk about the evolution of this, right? Like looking into the future, right? I mean, there's some obvious statements like, okay, well, more storage at the endpoint, more compute at the endpoint, and then optimization of the LLMs, right? Optimization of the workloads, optimization of the LLMs. Is there anything else like looking into the future that like for developers, right? Like what is ARM working on? Is there anything that like developers can look at and say like, hey, this is what I want to do because this is what's happening. I don't know.
I mean, at this point, of course, there is a limit of processing. There is a limit of number of cores. So we are now we are now doing tests with the Immortalis G715 with, for example, Vivo X90 Pro. It has 11 cores, right? Just recently has been released also the Pixel 8 with the Immortalis GPU. So this is the GPU that for the first time implement ray tracing on hardware ray tracing, for example. So this is a very powerful GPU. But of course, I mean, there is a limit of what you can put on the device, right? This is why it is so important to also develop models which are mobile friendly, right? That can be somehow
Mm.
installed and run on mobile. Uh, we the trend with the large language model is, you know, it has been growing from billions to the last chat GPT is 1 trillion parameters, right? It's
Wow.
just unthinkable,
Yeah.
yeah, uh, to run that on mobile. So we developers need to start thinking about smaller, more compact version of those um, language models, and we started seeing that with these tiny stories. I think that the intention for them was not to run on mobile, right? Of course, if you read the paper, but, but definitely, as soon as I saw it, I say, okay, this is what we need, at least to start experimenting with the NPCs, with smarter NPCs, and then we have in our team a rotation working on this project, now implementing the first part of it, which is speech to text, right? Because we want to talk to the NPC, right?
Yeah.
So first you talk, that need to be transformed to text. That text need to be used as input to the small language model, right?
Yeah.
And then the small language model will process that and will produce an output as a text. And that text needs to be back transformed to speech. So we could interact verbally with the
And the
NPC.
NPC could be like, you could be like, NPCs attack, and then they'll answer. They're like, no, we're gonna die. No,
Or,
that's the wrong answer. We've already tested it.
Or even something more mundane, like when in a lot of RPGs and stuff, when you interact with an NPC, you've got a very limited set of things you can say and a very limited set of responses. Like if it was more natural, you could say anything. And like the AI model is trained to give you a certain outcome, but how you get there is really going to depend on your interaction.
But Robert, I think that in the future that will be possible. No, the NPC just replied to you, but this is a suicidal.
It's a suicide mission. I trust me, I've done it a million times.
exactly. So, but now we are just starting, right? Nobody has done it that, right? Nobody has done it that. We are just exploring. This is an unexplored territory, right?
Yeah. You hear it, Gabe?
Have either of you seen that movie Free Guy? Because it sounds kind of like that. Same
Free
concept.
Guy.
Yeah,
with Ryan Reynolds.
It's a hysterical movie, but that kind of concept that the AIs might start to balk at what you want them to do in the game and just start doing something else instead.
But we are there, right? Think about we interact naturally using the speech. Why we can't do that with the NPCs? Why we need to use the text typing or the mouse? Just we are going there. I have no doubt. I don't know how long it will take, right?
It's not going to take long, Roberto. So like I play a lot of video games in my day. I don't play as much now because I've been busy. I'm a busy guy, but in my life I've played a lot of video games, and Michael's right. Like you have this limited set of responses when you usually interact with these NPCs, exactly. And so by allowing it to tap into this, converged to the infinite internet, you now have it kind of not only thinking for itself in a way, but then let's even add the acting for itself. Maybe if you walk up to an NPC and you say like, hey, I don't know, you're ugly. And he's like, oh, no, you didn't. Boom, pulls out a sword. Or maybe he's a polite guy and he's like, hey, why'd you call me that? Or, gets offended easily and starts crying. You just never know how it's going to react. And every time you play, it could be different. And that's
there was a paper. I now don't remember. I think that is from Stanford University, that they used a GPT model to power. It was not a game. It's like something similar to this game that reproduced the life of people in houses.
Simulator.
Sim, right? I just don't. And they did an experiment, but of course running on desktop, everything running on the site, and that was I think that they started the game, the simulation. It was a simulation game, right? They started that by giving a task to some character okay, let's organize a party, right? Let's organize a party. And then they start interacting and sending the invites and discussing about how they will do the best party, right? Something like that. But it is happening on the server, right? We are talking about using a language model on an NPC at runtime on mobile in a game where all the resources need to be shared, right, together with the graphics, right, with the things
Roberto,
that you need to render. Yep.
You just made me think of something. So like, think about this, right? You're talking about me interacting with an NPC. What's to stop another NPC interacting with an NPC? So next thing you know, you have this completely dynamic world, the world that's ever changing, ever moving, it's almost like a world within our world, right? We have these, and we have SimCity, like Cesar brought up, right? Like SimCity exists, but SimCity is, again, it's on what you can call the rails that we have in place right now. Once you really implement this, let's call it these true large language AI models, now you've created a truly dynamic gaming environment, and it's about getting there with what we have available, the compute, the storage, and in the most efficient manner on ARM. There's my plug.
Yeah, definitely. Nothing will stop NPCs interacting between them, as it's already happening in the demo that in the bunnies. I mean,
there you go. Yeah,
they interact between them to achieve a goal as a team, right? So NPCs, but we are starting from the first, from the first step, right? We need to get one NPC interacting with us verbally and doing something. Even I imagine when I formulated the problem, I imagine I would like not to give an order to the NPC, a direct order. I would like the NPC to understand the action that it needs to take by the context. Imagine that I'm talking with NPC and I say, something smell from the kitchen is coming, some strange smell, and the NPC said, "Oh, I will check in case of there is a fire."
I'll check the trash can, or I'll check if the fire's on. Yeah.
And if there is a fire, the NPC will extinguish it. Of course, at some point it needs to be trained for doing that action, right?
Yeah. And this is crazy. So like I was reading an article about how the human brain, right, like throughout the day makes up to, and usually around on average, 35,000 decisions, most of which are subconscious. So now you think about this throughout our life, right? Our life is a big old pile of experiences, right? Memories that build up my ability to articulate this sentence right now and make a decision to move this microphone up closer to my face. And so when you say like, oh, I smell something, I need to go into the kitchen to go check for fire. Well, the decision to do that, the culmination of data that I've had is a culmination of 35,000 decisions that I've made subconsciously over the course of every single day of my life since I was in my recognizable or rememberable life. And so that's what the AI engine is.
Network was trained.
That's how much data. That's how much data is needed. So when you think large language, it's freaking huge, right? Like this is huge.
So I want to bring this all back to Immortalis actually for a second, because you mentioned that that's coming out with the new Pixel 8. And I remember in the 90s, the early aughts, video games would have listed on the box back when they came in a box, like you need a GeForce this or a Radeon this. Like, are we getting to the point now where AI in games are going to start saying, if you want to play this, you need a mobile phone with Immortalis this, like as a minimum?
I mean, ray tracing provides, I would say, maybe the highest quality, right? Because this is a physical, it's just like simulating physically, right? How every ray come from the source and then start hitting the different objects in the scene. It's just simulating, right? Physically simulating how the scene lighting happening, right? So far we use different models that approximate that, but for the first time we have the opportunity now to perform this kind of calculation on hardware, right? And using ray tracing. So far it is not, we are not yet there in terms that we can ray trace everything, right? But we are starting with shadows, with reflections, it is something that we just couldn't imagine a few years ago, and look at now. It's happening.
It really feels like we're at a milestone for mobile gaming right now.
Yeah, we are. We definitely are for all gaming. I would say we're at a milestone for all gaming, but mobile gaming in particular, because this compute power that's being pushed out into the edge, like it's just crazy. And I've said this a bunch of times, Roberto. This is something that I got from Kevin Ryan. He uses it in some of his talks from the partner ecosystem team. The old days, like years ago, we were pushing all this data out from the servers, like 70% or 80% of data was being pushed out to the users. And now we see this completely flipped around. there's so much data now at the edge and at the endpoint that's being funneled back. In fact, it's more data that's coming out to in.
But think a little about why we want this all to happen at the edge, right? In the mobile phone.
Faster.
It's, imagine that you are talking verbally with a NPC, and then it will take a minute or 10 seconds, just to get the reply. That is not isn't admissible.
It doesn't feel real. It breaks.
Yeah, exactly.
It breaks the uncanny valley, right?
Exactly. So we want an immediate response, like it happened in the real world, right? This is what we want, and for that we need the inference to happen on the device.
Yeah.
There is a second reason, right, which is not only related with gaming, which is the concept of privacy, right? Every time you send something to a server and you get it back, you're compromising your privacy, right? The most protected data on your phone is the data that never leaves your phone. Let's be clear on that, right? And by other hand, you can reduce the load on the servers and the bandwidth consumption, right? So, but yeah, this is we want minimal latency, and we want immediately, right, response to the inference process. So there will be some kind of compromise, but I think that in the future, this language model will be like start getting some specialization, so they could get smaller with a good capacity to solve a given set of problems, right? So that will help them to be more mobile friendly.
Another reason to do this on the edge, and I'm thinking now, instead of like on gaming on a phone, but gaming on an Oculus, which is really similar hardware, right? Having that immersive virtual and start sensing your environment, your body, your posture, your
he's cutting out.
Your gaming environment can directly respond to your physical condition in a way like we've never seen before. Like, imagine if you go up to an NPC and he can sense if you're like scared right now or not.
Yeah, based on like your heart rate and stuff like that.
Yeah,
all the basically all the data input.
Or also from your face, from your expression, right?
Right. Yeah. Are you sweating or not?
So you two, I hate to cut the discussion short, but we are coming up to the top of the hour. It goes by so fast, huh, Roberto?
Yes,
definitely.
You don't even realize. I know, right?
I haven't sensed, the time passing, right?
I usually tell people at the beginning of these episodes, like right before we start, I say, like, don't stretch for conversation. Like, this is all just natural, and I'm not even kidding. Like, this is all just natural conversation here. We don't even have to stretch. The hour goes by so quick. So Roberto, I just want to say, like, Michael, any last questions from you before we kind of close this out?
This has just been a great discussion, and I love the kind of like pie in the sky thinking of where this is going, and looking forward to that Pixel 8 phone. I'm due for an upgrade, so hearing that that's got the new Immortalis chip in it,
nice.
I'm gonna get that.
Yeah, and it also, by the way, because I have it here.
Oh, the Pixel 8, nice.
Oh, yeah?
I have it. Oh, you just can.
You got to put it in front of your below your face.
In front of my face. Okay.
Well, not in front, below it.
Yeah, because I'm testing the MTE. So this is the first phone which is coming out of the box with the memory tagging extension, right? Which is very important to detect memory bugs in the application, right? So this is the first phone that is coming with that. So I'm using it for testing that feature.
We'll have to do another.
The first phone with a chip that runs was ARM v9.
Yeah, I mean the MTE is supporting only the v9 architecture.
It's a cutting edge phone in a number of ways.
Yeah, definitely. There is another phone from Vivo that supports MTE as well, but you need to somehow you need to receive an update over the air, and it's just like
so we'll have to have a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
At
some point. I will suggest you. Right? Because
let me know.
I delivered recently a a guide that is the first guide for Android developers on MTE,
Yeah.
together with Google and Unity. And now I'm testing MTE on the Pixel 8 because I have I will prepare like a learning path, right?
Yeah, it sounds like we could
So-
do an entire episode
So
just on
guys,
this feature,
guys,
right?
I do have to interrupt here because we do have to close it out at the top of,
Yeah,
of the
definitely.
hour.
Yeah,
I want to
sorry
make
about
sure. No, that Roberto, this is a blast. Like I don't want to close it out, right? But we do have to. You know, we'll have to do another episode here. We'll save
We'll
this
get you back on
content.
again, yeah.
Yeah. But Roberto, it has been a true pleasure here. Do you have any last words? Like any plugs, anything you want to forward people to? You know, you get kind of your shameless plug here.
I would like just to share my, let's say, enthusiasm on what these new models, not only the language models, but also um, the generative model for image generation. Um, so that enthusiasm for what they can offer.
Yeah.
So it will be an authentic revolution, right? And especially for graphics, right? We see now graphics is completely invaded by machine learning, by deep learning techniques, right? But also now these models, large language models, and image generation models
Yeah, they're not just GPUs
are
anymore. They're GPUs
yeah
and
are
AI
are
processors.
coming. I mean, GPT has already the capability to generate images and understand verbal communication. So GPT or Chat GPT can already see, let's say, and talk, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we are going somehow to some general AI. For the first time, I think that large language model will have that capability, and it's not casual. I think that it's not by chance. I think because they rely on the language, which is a basic, the most basic instrument we have, and it helped the language.
All right.
It was the reason we have this brain, right?
So this leads into my shameless plug, which is always the Discord anyway. But we do have an AI ML channel specifically in the Discord for this kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And Roberto, I hope you join us in there too. If you're not
Are you-
one of our ARM
Oh
experts
yeah.
already,
Are you
I
in
will
there?
I'd love to
definitely.
have you in there.
He's in the Discord. You're in the
Yeah,
Discord.
yeah.
right?
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been
Okay, yeah.
there.
He
I've been there.
answers stuff in there, I believe, as well.
All right,
Yeah.
so come if anyone watching this, come to our Discord and ask Roberto your questions there.
Roberto.
This is a topic I will really like to chat, right? And
Yeah.
I also posted there a blog that I recently released on quantization, which is so important to bring models to mobile space.
Oh yeah, I see Ben C posted that right there.
Yeah.
Ben is
Yeah.
from
So join the Discord.
I
so
just,
check that out.
yeah, Ben is from our team.
Gentlemen,
Ben Clark.
you know,
Yeah.
Roberto, on your point here, and to close everything out, we can see your passion. You are passionate about this. We can hear it in your voice, and obviously, you know, in just wanting to talk about all of this cool stuff that's happening, you know, with regards to the LLMs and on ARM. So, you know, on behalf of myself, Michael already thanked you, but I'm gonna thank you again for him. And obviously on behalf of ARM, because you know, ARM's the best. You know, thank you for joining Innovation Coffee. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh,
So
thank you, Robert. Thank you, Michael, also for having me today. The
Yeah, of
pleasure
course.
is
Thank you,
mine.
Roberto. It's been
So
great.
I'm gonna close this out now real quick. All right. So everyone watching, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We appreciate it. This has been an excellent episode. Want to thank Roberto again, once again, my amazing co-host over here, Michael Hall, and we look forward to seeing you next week. I won't be here, unfortunately, but Michael will be hosting on his own, possibly with Gabe, our producer over here. And you don't want to miss it. You'll hear some announcements coming up in the Discord channel, or keep an eye on our YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you in the next Innovation Coffee. We are out. Take care.